What's good, everyone? Welcome back to the show, man. Recap with Mo, where we getting ready to get into another one. But before we get into it, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit that's going down right here, alright? So the show that we're getting ready to recap tonight is the Family Business. Now, this show is not new at all. It's been around for quite a while, and I finally decided to bring it to this channel because I was like, shit, with all the stuff that's going on with the writers and the actors and now going on strike, who knows what shows we're going to be able to watch, in the near future. So I was like, let me go ahead and step back a little bit and recap some of the older episodes, because right now they're showing some of the older episodes on the actual BET network. But if you want to get up to, where we currently are, season 5 is getting ready to start on BET Plus. So I've decided to go back a little bit and get us caught up a little bit. So anyhow, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this episode number 1 of season 3, titled The Heat Is On. All right. So the synopsis for this episode states that Alexander orders his scientists to perfect his version of heat. Junior and Sonya plan their wedding. Alexandro reveals his plans for Consuela, and Sasha considers a romance with Elijah. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into this thing. So we start this episode off with Brother X or Brother Xavier, whatever the hell you want to call him. He's there to deliver a package to Mrs. Duncan. But while he's there, he's distracted because there are multiple people there that he did not consider to be there. So when he's there, he has this vision in his head where he actually pulls out a knife and he does his business with it. That's what we see at the conclusion of the previous season, in season 2. But in this episode, it doesn't actually go down that way, because we hear a voice off to the side who says, "Hey babe, do you want a drink?" So he was like, "Hold on, you're not here alone? You got company?" She was like, "Yeah, but what the hell they got to do with you?" You see what I'm saying? You here to drop off a package. So why in the hell are you asking me about who I got over here as company, right? So he was like, "Oh, now did you say your name was Dolores?" She was like, "No, my name is Donna Duncan." And he was like, "Oh, well, see, this package right here is actually for Dolores." And she was like, "Do I look like a damn She was like, "Do I look like a damn Dolores to you?" And he was like, "Well, I apologize for the inconvenience, or whatever inconvenience I've, brought upon you," right? So he leaves. Old boy comes over and he was like, "Who was that?" She was like, "Some dumbass, delivery guy or whatnot." So from there, we head over to the Duncan house, where we see Nevada, who's sitting in the brand new car that he got on his birthday. He's sitting in the car looking at this present that his cousin Paris has just given him and told him to open it up while he was by himself. So when he looks inside of the box, he sees that there's a GUN in there that Paris has blessed him with. And he says, "Oh, this shit is better than the car." And actually, I would happen to agree with him at this point because of all the stuff that the Duncans are involved in. So I definitely believe that the gun is the better gift at this time. All right, so going on from there, we see Brother Alexander. He's over here talking to his scientists because he's still trying to create his own version of heat, but he has not been successful. All right, so now he's like, "Okay, what's good? How's everything doing? How's everything going, Dr. Fritz?" I think that was her name. At least that's what I wrote down. And she was like, "Well, we're almost there, but we're still having some issues with, some of the side effects, with taking this street pharmaceutical," right? So he was like, "Well, what the hell do you mean about these side effects?" So she was like, "If you would follow me, I would show you exactly what I'm talking about." So he and his wife, they follow along, and they walk into this room where they see this guy patiently waiting on Dr. Fritz to deliver this street pharmaceutical, right? So he was like, "Do you have it? Do you have it?" And they're like, "Okay, just hold off." And Alexander's like, "Hold on, before you give it to him, I just want to know, what would you do, for this street pharmaceutical, right?" And he was like, "I would do anything, everything." He was like, "I've been taking street pharmaceuticals since I was a teenager." And he was like, "This is the best thing I've ever had." So anyhow, they give it to him and he passes out on the floor and begins to have a seizure. So of course his wife is like, "What's going on?" And she was like, see, that's what we're talking about. That's part of the side effects that we're having with this street pharmaceutical, right? So it was like, what the hell? This ain't no damn effect. Like, this is... And she is like, look, this is way better than what we were having at first. She was like, we were unaliving people initially, but now they just pass out for about 4 or 5 hours. And he was like, what the hell? He was like, look, I don't want to have no more conversation about this. Like, I cannot accept failure. I need you to get this shit done, and I need it done like yesterday. So anyway, he walks off, and his wife stays behind, and she's like, look, I'm not going to tell you what happened previously with the previous doctors that could not get shit done, but if you don't get done with this, then you pretty much can count this on your life. I was like, oh, hell to the no. So anyhow, see, y'all got to be careful with the people you work with. Like, this right here is an unsafe environment mentally, because I can only imagine what old girl is going through right now. Like your life depended on it. Like, no. That's not for me. Like, I need to feel free, as if I get pissed off at y'all, I should feel free to walk my ass off that job. But unfortunately, Dr. Fritz can't do that. So anyway, we head back over to the Duncan's house where we see, LC, we see Orlando, and we see Nevada. They're all chilling, watching a show or whatnot. And we see both Junior and Sonya coming in to deliver a message to Mr. LC. All right, so as I stated, they were all sitting on the couch. They come in and pretty much say, hey, we've decided to get married. Everyone is excited. And Junior asked Orlando to be his best man. He said, I definitely would. LC was excited. And of course, Junior's mother comes in, and of course she's ecstatic because they've actually set a date, and she states, hey, we're going to have this go on about 3 months from now. So everybody's excited. And then Sonya walks over to LC to ask if he would actually walk her down the aisle, because her dad is no longer in the picture. I believe he's deceased. I know for sure her mom is deceased. Now, I'm not sure about her dad. But anyhow, he actually stated that he would be honored as well to walk her down the aisle. So, she was like, look, I just want something small and simple. And they said, no, you need to kill that right now. You about to become a Duncan. We don't do shit small. We don't do shit simple. And they're like, show you right. All right. So anyhow, we head over to this fine ass girl's crib, who happens to be on another show that I review and recap, Zatima, which we'll talk about at a later date. All right. So anyhow, Curtis comes up, knocks on the door. She opens the door, and she was like, look, what's good? He was like, look, I'm looking for Xavier. Is he here? She was like, look, I'm tired of answering questions about him. He's not here, and no, I do not know where he is. So she attempts to close the door on him. And he was like, hold on, wait a minute. He was like, look, I got to drop this off to him. So he pulls this money up out of his pocket or whatnot. And she was like, look, you don't look Muslim. He was like, no, I ain't Muslim. She was like, where's your bow tie and your bean pot? I was like, man, that was wrong. So anyhow, he was like, no, do I look like a Muslim to you? So you could tell that she was feeling him from the very get-go. But anyhow, when he showed that money, she said, no, just come on in. And he was like, no, I don't want to be disrespectful or nothing like that, because you know how Muslim men are about their women. She was like, shit. She was like, look, I ain't his woman. I'm his sister, Charmaine. So he was like, okay. So she was like, come on in. All right. So he walks on in. He looks behind him, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So from there, we head over to Orlando's crib, where he's always with a different woman, which I do not understand. I know he stated before that, he doesn't mix business with pleasure, or the life that he lives is too dangerous to be with one woman. But I honestly believe that if you're going to be in this type of business, then the best thing to do is to get with one person and stay with that one person. That way, that person is constantly with you, always by your side. Like, all this bed hopping with multiple women, I just don't get that with Orlando. But it is what it is at this point, because that's what he does. So while they laid up in the bed or whatnot, Brandy's ass come over with a knife, and she pokes the tires. As a matter of fact, she pokes all 4 of them things, all right? Leaves that man on flat. So he hears his car alarm going off, which he gets up, he goes outside, and she was like, what you gonna do? Woo, woo, woo. Pretty much threatening him. Old girl who he was laid up with comes out as well. And she was like, oh, you gonna get me in front of her? She's gonna be a witness and all that shit like that. So anyhow, she goes on to say that this man gave her an STD, and old girl was looking at him like, what the hell? And he was like, no, now you gonna sit up here and lie on me or whatnot? And she was like, yeah, because you were the one that started this. Now, Brandy, we have to be fair in all of this. There's no way in hell that you can sit up here and say that Orlando was the one that started all of this. He told you from the get-go that he did not get down with the help, and you pressured him in getting into bed with you, which I still don't understand why. Now, you cannot sit up here and play the victim when you help coerce this whole situation. You cannot play the victim. And then when you don't like the way that it went down, you can't turn around and say foul or illegitimate things about this person because you feel some type of way about it. All right, it is what it is, and you just got stuck, and then he didn't want to play the same game that you wanted him to play, so now you pissed off about it that he fired you. Shit, he gave you some money, all right? He gave you some money to walk on. So, I mean, listen, let's move on from there, man, because I was like, what the hell is going on here? So you always got to be careful who you get in bed with, people. I don't see why people just don't get that in their right frame of mind. Like, you got to be careful who you get down with, all right? Anyhow, going on from there, we head back over to Charmaine's crib where we see Brother Curtis sitting up in there, and old girl is throwing all types of vibes at my boy. So Curtis is like, okay, what you want me to do? I need to drop this money off. She was like, well, you can just leave it here with me. So he was like, look, how do I know I can trust you to do that? And then she's rolling up something, and she looks at him like, okay, like, sometimes you gotta have that trust. Like, we're gonna have to build that trust. And she sort of looks at him with that eye. So Curtis is like, okay, I see what this is. And then she opens up. And she was like, so what you gonna do? I was like, hell yeah. Man, listen, man. So anyhow, man, and we were just talking about this, like, slow the hell down. Why everybody got to jump in the bed so damn quickly? Anyhow, going on from there, we see both Juan and Natalia sitting in the holding area to go inside of the courtroom or whatnot. So Natalia is like, what the hell is going on? Like, I knew I was going to get arrested for some shit or go to jail for some shit, but I didn't know I was going to go to jail on some suspicion of some shit because, of course, she would have never killed Consuela. But unfortunately, the way that everything was handled and how they got caught, they pretty much just had to sit there. Of course, Juan had nothing to say. So then the officer comes in and he escorts them inside of the courthouse. So of course, Natalia is still nervous about the whole situation. Juan is still sitting there silent. So there's an attorney there, and he pretty much states that, hey, the search was illegal. The judge pretty much throws it out because they searched illegally or whatnot. So they was like, how the hell did that happen? He was like, I happened. So the attorney, who goes by the name of Lamar, he was like, shit, I was the one that made all of this shit turn around. So they was like, okay, well, we thank you for doing your job or whatnot. So Juan goes into the fact like, well, did they find a body? And then, or we need to decide where we're going to place her body or whatnot. And he was like, well, that's not what you were arrested for. You were arrested for the illegal GUNs that were inside of the vehicle, but you were not arrested for a body because there was no body. So they was like, hold on, what do you mean? Like, we went to the actual site where we knew the body was, whoop, whoop, whoop. And he was like, no, there was never nobody there. So anyhow, they was like, okay. So he leaves, and he pretty much says, don't just try to stay out of trouble, and he leaves up out. So and then at that point, Juan and Natalia, they have this conversation because she has this puzzling look on her face. And he was like, what's good? We not locked up or nothing. And she was like, okay, I'm still trying to understand what's going on here because Consuela, we thought she was dead. Now she's not dead. So why hasn't she tried to get in contact with us? And he was like, yeah, that's a good question. So anyhow, going on from there, since we're talking about them, let's go ahead and head over here to Alejandro, who we see outside eating up. And after he finishes his plate, he goes in and he drops off a plate to Consuela, who's locked up right now. So she was like, look, why are you doing this to me? Why can't you just let me go? He was like, no, I want you to feel what I felt when I had to be away from the people, away from the public, in isolation. I want you to feel everything. And then also, you're not getting no shower, so the longer you sit in this rat-infested environment, you just gonna really crave for a shower, and I'm not gonna give you that shit. And so Consuela is like, please, will you just let me go? And she was like, look, my people are going to look for me. And he was like, your people? He was like, your people, you treated those people like shit. He said, they're going to be begging me for a job when they come back here because you treated them like crap. So all she can do is sit there and look at them from a distance because she's chained up to the floor. So it's nothing she can do at this point. So now let's head back over what we see Brother Alexander, who's sitting over here talking to Dr. Drift once again. So of course she's called him in. He was like, hopefully you guys got some good news for me at this point, since you guys done called me over here in the middle of the night. So he comes suited and booted, and they pretty much say, hey, we're a lot better off than what we were. Whoop, whoop, whoop. They're no longer, having seizures or whatnot, but they're still passing out for hours on at a time, right? So he was like, what the hell you tell me this for? You could have told me this over the phone. So he was like, there was this other guy there this time, another doctor, and he was like, well, would you like to have someone, who has actually worked on the original heat? So he was like, would you be able to do that? He was like, yeah. But he says, I probably wouldn't be the best person to send over there to retrieve her because of the relationship that she and my son had previously, because she found out that he was married. So I was like, damn, bro, why you even bring it up? But anyhow, he was like, well, I appreciate that. But anyhow, Alexander goes back to Dr. Fitz and is like, what if we're not able to get this woman to come over here? And she was like, well, first and foremost, most of that is going to be on you. So we definitely need some more heat to come this way so we can finish this job. He was like, I'm quite sure I can do that. So we head back over to the States where we see the brother minister and brother Elijah sitting in the car. And obviously Elijah has agreed to be, head of his security force. So he's very thankful for that situation. So we see brother Elijah, who is currently suited and booted, which he always is, of course. And he goes over to see his girlfriend, who happens to be Sasha. All right. So Sasha, as we all know, she's a trained assassin. And, both of these individuals are trained assassins. So they hit it all pretty well. And they've built this rapport with one another. So we find out from this conversation that he really, really likes her. But his question on his head is this realistic? So she was like, what do you mean? Like, you like me, I'm feeling you. It's not rocket science at all. So he was like, yeah, I love you, you like me and love me, but your family hate me. And she was like, look, I don't give a hell what they think about this whole situation. I need you to know that I love you. And he was like, yeah, but how is this going to work? And she was like, well, there are going to be some people in my family that feel some type of way about you, but that doesn't mean that's how I feel about you. So anyhow, he was like, you haven't even told them about us. So she was like, yeah, I'm going to tell them soon. So they toast to that and pretty much go on from there. So anyhow, we head over to see my brother Sebastian. Now, Sebastian is in a little heat of trouble, all right? No pun intended, because he's gotten into bed with Alexander, which Alexander is calling him because he needs a new supply of heat to, resolve what he got going on across seas. But Sebastian has not been able to get his hands on anymore. And then, of course, Alexander is like, look, failure is not an option. Maybe I need to find somebody else that can do the job for me. So, of course, Sebastian is like, hell no, I'm going out to get this money. So, by any means necessary, he's going to try his best to, re-up on some heat. So anyhow, we see back in the city, we see brother Xavier, who's sitting in this van, and he's waiting on the perfect time to get out and pounce on, Mrs. Duncan, right? So while he's sitting there getting ready to grab that weapon or whatnot, a police officer pulls up from behind. which he ducks down to the side where he cannot be seen. So anyhow, while that shit is going on, we see Charmaine now calling Curtis. So Curtis picks up the phone. He was like, hey, you ready for round 2? She was like, look, I ain't worried about no sex right now. I'm calling to tell you that Brother X was right here. But unfortunately, that man took the money. He took my purse, my car keys, my ID, every damn thing. And he was like, look, damn, Charmaine, you should have told me when he was there. She was like, look, I tried. But did you not hear the words that came up out of my mouth? He took everything from me, all right? So anyhow, he was like, okay, well, what kind of car was he driving? And she was like, well, I think some type of old beat up delivery van or whatnot. So anyhow, like I stated before, the van, it was a delivery van, but it was very beat up. It looked like it didn't belong in the neighborhood, because as Donna and her friend were walking by, they sort of looked at the vehicle. Now, I'm not sure if they actually saw him in a vehicle, because that probably would have alarmed Donna, because she had already seen him previously in his uniform. So I don't think he wanted to be caught that way. So anyhow, while he's getting ready to grab that thing off to the side, there's a police officer that pulls up, and he turns on his siren. So I was like, hell, is he getting ready to pull, Brother X over? But obviously he doesn't, because he pulls by him and he stops his vehicle to holler at the ladies who are walking. So he was like, is everything good? And they was like, no, we're good. Everything is good. So anyhow, we find out his name is Detective Brian. All right. So going back to Dunkin' Motors, we see Brother Orlando. He's walking in, got his head down, because he's still pissed off about what has transpired. So, of course, LC, when he walks in, he was like, hey, what's good? I heard you don't have your car or whatnot. So O is like, hey, I just had to go get it serviced a little bit. So Junior walks in, though, and he was like, hey, yo, what's going on? I thought you said your car was, whoop, whoop. I thought it was being serviced or whatnot, but old boy told me that it's on a flat in the bed with all 4 of the tires flat and shit. So of course, LC, his dad was like, shit, like what woman you done pissed off? So of course he's pissed off, because he didn't want nobody in his business. So anyhow, we head back over to the Duncan crib, where we see Sasha and we see Sonya. They had this heart-to-heart. Sasha pretty much conveys to her that she's in love with this Muslim guy, and she was like, look, I need to figure out a way to convey this information to my family, but I just don't know how to do it. So anyhow, and she was like, well, are you ready to take that, that extra step? She was like, I am, but I just don't know how to do it. So anyhow, long story short, she decides to hold off just for right now, because she doesn't want to change anything that's going down right now, because she doesn't know how the family will respond to the news to this man that, so-called, quote unquote, potentially could have been one of the people who took her away from them. All right. So anyhow, we head back over and we see Sebastian, who is now at Dunkin' Motors. Now, this man done brought $2 million in cash, and now he wants to deal with the Dunkins to purchase another supply of heat. Orlando is like, look, we've already given your ass, your monthly shipment. So he was like, look, if you don't know, if Rio has not conveyed this to you, I pretty much run Florida, and I'm looking at taking over Georgia as well. So LC is like, well, it's good that, you're able to move the product in such a way, but obviously they don't trust you in this room. So they have him flag down, see if he got something on him, because they need to check to see if he got a wire on him. Obviously he doesn't, because they continue with the conversation. So then Sebastian turns over and he starts to talk to LC, and he's like, look, I'm just trying to be, this honest man. I'm just trying to work hard. And he was like, look, you know how difficult it is, LC, for us to be black men in the South or whatnot. And Junior's like, what? You black? So they was like, look, LC was like, look, let's just cut it real quick. Pretty much, let me think about it. We're going to talk about it. But for right now, we're not going to make a decision right now. So, of course, Sebastian is pissed off, because at this point, he needs to figure out a way to get the product to Alexander so he can, produce, what he needs to produce over there across seas. So anyhow, we see Rio pull up, and when he gets out, he's met by Doll, who is waiting on Sebastian. So he was like, well, where's baby? And of course, she was like, well, she's outside or whatnot. So anyhow, we see Sebastian come up out. He's pissed off, and he was like, look, everything was cool, but your brother is being a dick about this whole situation. He's not letting it go down the pipeline. So he was like, look, if my father said he would do something, if he's going to think about it, that's exactly what he's going to do. All right. So, of course, Sebastian doesn't want to hear that because he was like, look, that's not going to help me. And I've already told you I'm under pressure to get this shit out. All right. So anyhow, we head back over to the Duncan house where they're eating up some chicken. And while they're celebrating, eating or whatnot as a family, LC receives a phone call. Of course, LC is like, okay, I got to get gone. He calls Junior, he calls Harris, and they make their way up out of the house. What it turns out to be is that Brother Curtis, who is, investigating, where Brother X is, he has been apprehended by the police there. So now they're coming to, to aid him and assist him on getting out of trouble, of course. So that's the trouble that Mr. LC was talking about. So anyhow, pretty much that's the end of the episode. Please let me know how you felt about this recap. Of course, I got another one coming your way tomorrow. So I'm trying to get these out as quickly as possible because I do not know exactly when season 5 is going to premiere. But I got a whole lot of things coming your way. So please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss shit that's going down right here. Alright, so with that being said, I'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.